Joe Biden is ready to protect America's southern border, crack down on illegal crossings, set tough but fair new standards, build up Border Patrol, adding thousands of new agents, stop the flow of fentanyl, child sex traffickers, and even terrorists. There's only one problem.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has ordered Republicans to block the toughest immigration bill in decades. For all their tough talk, their solution is to do nothing, because Donald Trump needs chaos to win.
He'd rather weaponize this issue than actually solve it.
If he wins, he'll do nothing. Just like last time, his wall, a joke. Donald Trump doesn't care if your family's safety or the lives of law enforcement officers are in the balance. He's on the side of the cartels, coyotes, and child traffickers. There's only one candidate who will do something about our border, and it was never Donald Trump.
The tables have turned in more ways than I could have imagined. I mean, the Lincoln Project put that ad out to drive the point home that Donald Trump doesn't actually give a damn about the border issues he and his party have been complaining about. It still could have been impactful without adopting the similar images and blanket declarations about every person that approaches the border that many Republicans use. But the Lincoln Project is still a group of Republicans who can't stand Donald Trump. Speaker Johnson is catching it from the conservative networks as well.
Speaker Johnson said he was slamming this package for excluding the border security provisions. The Senate bill, he said, is silent on the most pressing issue facing our country, talking about the border. He says he's not going to bring it to the floor if it passes the Senate, which it did, but they could find a way to go around the speaker.
Right. And he says the reason that the House is not going to bring it up is because it needs border security stuff, which ironically was in the Senate bill last week. But of course, that was kicked to the curb because a bunch of Republicans bailed on it because Donald Trump didn't like it.
There's a chance this move might become a major black eye for the Republicans that forgot that they represent constituents and not the former president's aspirations. Voters didn't only listen to Trump rant and rave over and over against the evil people at the border that are coming into your home and trying to terrorize your family. They listen to the Congress people that use the same language. They might be turned off when they see some Senate Republicans voice their support for legislation that gives the many elements that they've called for, while both Trump and Speaker Johnson basically admit they simply don't want anything solved during Trump's campaign. It's not simply a Democratic talking point. So House Republicans' news appearances are getting a little bit dicey.
Why isn't it better to have increased security at the border rather than nothing?
Well, that's a false choice because Joe Biden shredded the Remain in Mexico policy his first week in office. He did it very with great flamboyance, and he could reinstate that today simply with a pen. So the false choice of, hey, look at this disaster.
That many of the moves you've talked about that President Trump attempted were challenged in courts. You had a Democratic president here who was willing to
Remain
give
in Mexico
more.
Was not struck down by the court. That's
I'm talking about
executive.
I'm talking about executive privilege and powers that the House is saying the president could exercise. But as you know, this is a president who is actually making concessions that previous Democratic presidents didn't make. I just wonder, why is it safer for your constituents to have no increased security at the border as opposed to that negotiated by your Senate Republican colleagues?
The framing of the questions is now different, where the onus of what to do about what the GOP has called the most existential threat to the country, it's now on their shoulders. It's unfamiliar territory for Representative Brandon Williams there, who didn't like his talking points being vetted in real time.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that Joe Biden has provided no security at the border, along with Secretary Mayorkas. I think that's a bold admission.
Not exactly what
CNN.
I said. I did not say that.
I said that is exactly what you said. That was the
compared
choice.
to no deal,
security at the
you
border.
had a tougher
you said
deal.
No security at the border.
No additional security. Let's talk as people who respect each other. I respect your service. I'm asking you why no deal is better for your constituents for the rest of the year, as opposed to a deal that significantly tightened up restrictions at the border.
Well, because permitting in the law, in the code, 5,000 per day on average over a period of time to enter the country.
That's not true. That's not true. It's not allowing 5,000.
It is true. It's a disaster.
It was not allowing them in. It was saying at 5,000 encounters, you don't entertain any more encounters at the border.
I'm sorry.
Is
that respecting each other? Is that what you're getting at here?
Well, I will challenge you when you say something that's not true.
I'm a member of Congress. You're cutting me off. It absolutely is
only when you say
true.
something not true.
And I see. And you are the arbiter of truth. I realize that CNN has a great
Senator
track record
James
on that.
Lankford,
So
a Republican senator, said that the 5,000 per day talking point was false. So I'll quote him if you won't take my word for it.
Senator James Lankford has put them in a position where they can't talk about how little Democrats are doing as far as crossings and enforcement. So the conversation shifts to them whining about how unfair the questions are. So for the 100th time, Donald Trump's selfish goals for promoting himself have cornered his GOP allies into doing his bidding at their own detriment. It's beginning to show up everywhere they go when they want to push their agenda.
Trump is a traitor. So you really think people on the border is an insurrection? What kind of education have you had, sir? When you have tens of thousands of people attack the state capitol, people are killed because of that, beaten, that was an insurrection. And Trump called it, you know it, the whole world knows it. And to try and confuse people by saying the stuff on the border is an insurrection makes you sound like an idiot. I tell you, you just don't know what's going on. What a shame that we have such uneducated people.